Who's this?
Well, I went out and I exercised, and I was just thinking about just all kinds of things. Just my mind is just been racing, and I started thinking about the pile of money, right? And
Okay.
it's in my post. Until your pile of money is equal to or larger than your competitor, your oppressor, or the person that opposes you, they will never respect you, they will overlook you, and they will discredit you in as many ways as possible, because at the end of the day, they always understand that they have more resources and they can manipulate things around you as they so desire.
Yeah.
And we don't think about it that way. However, it's really the truth. It's the haves and the have-nots.
It's interesting. I've been listening to a lot of books and reading a lot of books, but one that kind of is outside of my current focus. I started listening to Unshakable, Tony Robbins, which is all about amassing as much wealth as you can, and it is so good. I would suggest that. And he says the same thing. Power brokers of the world are the power brokers because they've got the capital.
And I had to bring that into context, because a lot of times, people say, everybody talking about money, money, money. Money is not the end all be all, and money is not everything. But next to air, it's a close second. And if you don't believe me, try living without it.
Yep. Or creating change without it.
You can't.
Yeah.
And that's back to our conversation before, what I've said. Marching without money doesn't matter. You just marching until the money gets behind the march or the protest.
Yeah.
It falls on deaf ears. I mean, you're making a move. And there are things happening in that space. They're not happening to the same degree as when you put economics behind it. Let me put it that way. Because
it's interesting. I had somebody ask me last week, because us doing these has spurred a lot of great conversations. Right. Some not so great, but
it's okay.
It's all good. I'm ready for any of them. But I had somebody ask me, why do you think, and this may not feel great to some people on this call right now, why do you think the acceptance of homosexuality and the whole LGBTQ community has come so much further than race? And I went, interesting. And I had to think about it. And I said, number one, I think almost everybody, regardless of race, knows somebody who is gay or lesbian or bi or transgender, or that we are represented in every race.
Right.
So that, I think that helped a little bit, but also money.
Yeah, it's the economics behind it.
A lot of two people in a household, no kids, a lot of income to go around to create that change.
And the other end of that is the identity, right? You've been a white female, white America recognizes you regardless. They can't overlook you. They can't act like you don't exist. And at the end of the day, that common thread, just to be quite frank, that common thread of being white, it matters.
Sure.
It matters. And so when you talk about race, does it really matter? They have no common thread with the race question. And it's been ingrained in the psyche of the country for 400 years. Okay. That's what the Civil War was really all about. It's about the money behind racism. It wasn't a way of life. They called it, it was about the way of life. It was about the way of life of using other people to get labor. That was the way of life.
Money.
And
it
to
was
make
all
money,
economic.
which was a whole economy that was there anyway. And so, and it's moved so much further because you can't really have a way of discrediting sexuality. You can't, because you create this platform that white is the superior, right? And so now you're going to go against that platform that you created, and you're going to try to say white heterosexual is superior. You know, that's a distraction from your ultimate mission. It just is.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I like to pride myself on being an intelligent, well-educated person.
Right.
And this last week, I really had to confront that I may be well-educated in what the system taught me, but boy, do I have a lot of ignorance around the real history. And the book I took on this week is called How to Be an Anti-Racist. I would highly encourage y'all. That gentleman who wrote that gives an accurate historical picture of what you were just talking about, from the very beginning of the colonies here, and it's been really eye-opening. And it occurred to me, it's not in our history books, right?
It's matter of fact, nowhere. I've taken some. I'm a non-degree educated person. And, you know, I've taken multiple classes in different environments. And there has to be, it's the crazy part is it's African-American studies. What it really is, it's American history that was just eliminated from the books.
For sure.
That's what it really is. And so in that space, it's eye-opening.
It's beyond eye-opening. I mean, it really has caused, there's been times in my life I go, God, it was nice being naive. And I feel like in a year from now, I'm going to go, it was really nice being naive, but I can't be naive anymore. It is jarring, and needs to be read.
You do understand that, and it's not an anti-government statement. The government really thrives off of the ignorance of the populace. And if you remember in A Few Good Men, I forget whoever it was, Jack Nicklaus said, "You can't handle the truth." Remember when he made that statement? Yep. America they can't handle the truth of what really goes on. And so again, everything is whitewashed, and it just makes it seem like this utopic story of how, you know, the Indians met us at the boat and they gave us, and you know, they met us at the boat and we had this big Thanksgiving dinner and everything was great and life was grand. And then the whole part about we killed 80% of them.
Mercilessly.
Yeah. That never shows up and nothing else. But it is just it's just the way that things are. But the real question is, how do we really move forward? And I believe that part of that is just exposure. As I say all the time, you know, absent a conversation, ignorance prevails. And that's just where we are in that space. And the more conversation we have, the better off we'll be.
So you're doing something now on Thursdays. What is that? I saw your post and I am just curious.
Well, the deal is I've been doing these Thursday classes for the past 10 weeks. So it's always been something, it's always, it's a business conversation. I have Thursdays conversations with Emerick. They're business conversations. It's just come from different perspective, just different things that I've learned and different things that have happened to me and how to just help people grow in business, period. I've done the 6 personal perspectives. I did 24 points in the MREA book. I've done one thing excerpts. It's been the full gamut on Thursday, and it's really about
this social equity, right?
Yeah.
So from your perspective, right. And again, I've read about this last week, but from your perspective, what is the difference between social equality and social equity?
Did you see my latest picture that I put up?
Today, I have not.
Oh my gracious. Let me see if I can share the screen. Can you give me permission to share screen?
I think so. Let's see. Nope. Evie's gonna have to do it.
Okay. Is Evie on?
Looks like
I'm on. Let me make you a co-host, Emerick, okay. So you can share it.
And so when we having this conversation, so social equity, it depends on how you look at it, right? From my perspective, from the perspective that I'm coming from on Thursday, The conversation is about social equity is going to be, it's going to be about using your social networks to create as much income as possible.
Okay.
So you can have the best outcome on your financial situation.
Okay. And then look, maybe what you were talking about last week, keeping it in the community as much as possible too, right?
That's a part of it. That's a part of it, because in that space, if you give back to the community in which you live, right, it ultimately supports the things around it. It allows the community to thrive, and it allows the opportunity to actually have a better impact in the community. And that's just social economics. It just is. You can't live in a community and all of the income derived from the community leaves the community and then expect the community to thrive.
Yeah.
Does you see where I'm going with that?
Absolutely.
However, until you create a mechanism to create that income and you leave that income in place, it's not going to happen. And everybody does it. The fact is, you see my screen share?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, nobody, no community survives that way. If you look at the Jewish community, how many times we had this conversation briefly, the reason why the Jewish community is so strong is because the money turns over so many times in that community before it leaves that community, right? So it provides economic viability to even help grow the concept of the community. And it's in any community. You don't go outside. When you go to the market, right? You go to the market where? Do you go to the market 2 cities over? You go to the market typically in your community, right?
Yep.
And a lot of times the people who work in the market work where? And live where? In the community, right? And many, many times for a lot of places, a lot of the owners of those stores are in the community. So therefore, you increase the economic viability of the community, and it just creates a stronger sense of where you are. And so one of the biggest things that's happened, particularly, I don't want to say this, in the Black community, is that sense of community has been lost because the people in that community don't have the economic means to open a store. So the owners of the store are from outside of the community, and then the people in the community come to the store and they buy goods and they spend their money in the store. The store owner deposits the money into the local bank, right? Because it's right there.
Yeah.
And that's not where the power is. The power is not where you deposit the money. The power is where you withdraw the money.
Yeah.
Because that money that was in that community moves 50 miles away to where the owner lives, so that the store only becomes a conduit for the next community 550 miles away.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm thinking right now of more of our, I'm going to use the word ethnic neighborhoods in San Diego, and I'm going to challenge everybody to think about this. We know, we obviously know where they are and what really predominantly white neighborhoods we have. There's a lot more shops and stores and shopping options in the white community, at least in San Diego.
And that's not just San Diego. Okay. And so, and it just is. So when you take a look at this conversation, you see it where it says equity and equality.
Yep.
Take a look at it. Equality is all of the boxes are the same size, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's equality. However, in the equity, the boxes are not the same size, are they?
No, and I think the argument is equality is great if you're all standing on equal footing when equality, but we're not. Right?
Yeah, that is a part of it. The other part of it is if you don't have equity, you can't even buy a bigger box to stand on. So even though you're right there you have the opportunity to do something, without the equity, the opportunity is just a conversation.
Yeah. So I pulled up and I shared it in the comments right at the beginning. Out of the book White Fragility, she suggests that you look at a list of 46 different items that we take for granted that are white privilege.
Right.
And I went through it and chuckled a little bit at your expense. And I'm so glad we can laugh. But I'm going to see if this triggers the same thought in you that it triggered in me.
Okay.
Number 18 on this list is I can swear or dress in secondhand clothes or not answer letters without having people attribute these choices to the bad morals, the poverty, or the illiteracy of my race. So as a white person, I can swear, which everybody knows I do very well.
Right.
Dress in secondhand clothes.
Okay.
Not answer letters.
Right.
Without having people attribute those choices to the bad morals, the poverty, or the illiteracy of my race. Now, I doubt you dress in secondhand clothes because you got a great wardrobe.
Oh, no. I do have some coats now. I got some coats that I can't find anywhere else. It's that nostalgia 1950 coat. It's there. Yes, I do. Yes, I will. I am not above it.
And there was here's where my brain went when I chuckled. There was a moment a couple years ago. We were on a call. Not we. All
yes.
the
Yes.
company.
Yes, I do.
And I won't share the story. You're free to. I'm teeing you up for it. But my question is, did you feel any blowback of saying, well, only a black man would have done that?
No,
we all knew who it was.
Right. I didn't feel any blowback that way. However, I did get a different kind of response that I thought was overbearing, because somebody said we got to get him out of KW.
What?
Somebody said we should get him out of KW, and I don't know who said it. I have an idea, and they took it that way, and it kind of pissed me off, to be honest with you.
Sure.
And whoever
so I'll give a little context without saying, the whole story.
Okay.
We were on a nationwide OP call that John Davis was leading, and I think you must have been driving. You had some music.
I was in my car. I thought I was muted.
Yeah, and some words fell out of him in response to something John Davis had said, and it was just, I thought it was hilarious.
Okay, you can't say, okay, we won this call, and then let me tell you the context behind it is that I've been talking about this conversation about the gold mine and the fat middle of the real estate industry that's ignored. And I said, people.
So let me give even context to that, because when first time I heard fat middle, I'm like, okay, back off, right?
Right.
Fat middle meaning if you own a real estate brokerage, or the whole industry, the majority of income is going to come from that middle rung of producers, not your top producers, not your lower producers, but that fat middle where most real estate agents live.
Right.
So, okay.
And that part of the real estate industry has been ignored. And I've been having conversations for a couple of years in the region telling people that, hey, we got to focus on this middle group of producers because they require more attention than anybody else, because they're more vulnerable and they have the greatest opportunity to increase, because, a $2 million producer is really a $4 million producer in disguise, and a $5 million producer is a $10 million producer in disguise.
Yep.
So I've been having this conversation, and everybody was ignoring me, which is another issue, because anyway. And so they've been ignoring me. Then John Davis came up, and he started talking about the gold mine was in the middle, and then I blurted out, can I say it?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. You already did it once.
This is for contextual nature, so that you understand. In the middle of a call with 500 people on a call, I thought I was on mute in my car by myself, and I just blurted out, yeah, the motherfucking gold mine. And I blew up the entire call of 500 people, because the call got totally silent, and people was like, oh, really? So there's this huge sense of embarrassment on my part, because I just blew up a 500-person call.
Did you know immediately you weren't on mute?
Yeah. Sometimes you did something, you just know you did something, And it was like, I was like sliding down underneath the steering wheel at that point. And I was like, okay. And then immediately I started getting texts to say, Emerick, was that you? Was that you? You better say something. I just kept quiet. I wasn't saying anything. And so that, yeah, but some of the comments that came out of that, yeah, it was a little different. I believe that it would have been perceived differently had it not been me. And so,
for
yeah,
sure.
I do. Yeah.
For sure.
So,
and
yes.
So my other thought on that, and thank you for sharing, it's one of those classic historic Keller Williams moments, in my opinion. I'm so glad I was there for. Had that been a white person, we wouldn't have been able to figure out who it was because there were 499 white people on that call.
Right. No 498.
That's the white privilege. You screw up, you can kind of get hidden.
498 because Bo was on there too.
Okay.
So it was two of us on the 500 person call. And so it is. It's.
By the way, I also want to say the next historic moment was you coming on that next Monday and totally owning it.
Right.
It's been rare where I've seen a leader really step up in that way, and I was like, oh, that's cool. He just gave me a great demonstration of what it's like to own your shit.
Well, and that's just the way it is. But just to be in that place where you're better than on a 500 person call, right? Just to be quite honest, you're better than out of 500. You're better than 450 of them because my market center was in the top 50. So if my market is in the top 50, it's 500 people on the call. My market center was better than 450 of the other people that were there. And to be judged by them as to whether or whichever one of them, whichever couple of them that thought that I something others should happen to me, to be in that seat of judgment, it's a little different.
So when we go now to the events, right? Because that was a couple years ago. I think just a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Do you find yourself trying to figure out who it was?
I don't worry about it.
Okay, good.
I don't worry about it. I believe that in this space, you have to understand who's on your team and who's not on your team. There are always going to be people that are not on your team. And you really can't worry about who's not on your team. You have to worry about who's on your team.
Yeah. Because
you're walking into a dark alley. So you have to understand who has your back in that dark alley.
And I'm saying this kind of snidely, even in a professional environment.
Oh, hell, it's even worse there because you can't tell who is and who's not.
Because everybody knows how to look good, say the right things.
And smile at you.
Yep.
And then smile. They do a great job and smile. But and then sometimes it becomes revealing when people walk up to you and say, that was a really articulate statement that you made. What am I supposed to be, a freaking monkey and not speak? You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
You reveal your hand in many cases.
Yeah. And sometimes that's just ignorance, right? And we can reach a hand out to people who want to look at things differently. Right. But it's becoming real clear right now on both sides. We'll say on both sides. I'm not going to.
It is on both. Let's make it clear. It is on both sides, right? Yeah. There's no denying that. The challenge is that it's kind of sort of like you going to kindergarten, you, Ashley, in the state you are now, going to kindergarten and picking a fight with the kindergarten bully.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. When you're picking a fight with the kindergarten bully, we already know what the outcome is going to be. So it's on both sides. And the other side really does not have the economic, political, or any other type of strength to fight the other side.
Yeah.
Effectively fight without some people from the other side coming over.
Well, and so the other morning I was walking. I'm honestly working on this in my own mind every moment of the day that I'm not working on work.
Right.
And I was walking and I thought, okay, we're coming up on an election. We can go there too. That was my biggest fear for this year.
Okay.
And I thought, what is the message, the white privilege message that I get from watching C-SPAN or anything where I'm looking at the Senate and Congress, and there are so few people of color at all what can I even imagine what it would look like to have 50% black faces and 50% white faces sitting in those bodies of government? And I don't know what it's going to take to get there, but I think that's something we all have to be focused on.
Well, the truth is, you won't ever see that happen.
Oh, come on. Let's have some hope, man.
Well, here's the deal. Just take a look at the populace. Remember, it's two or four per state. Think about that for a second, right? And so unless you're going to have this influx in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, you get where I'm going with this?
You gotta be careful. If I take a drink of coffee, man, I don't see that.
Unless you're going to get this huge influx of diverse population in those places, it's just not going to happen, right? And so that part, and I feel comfortable saying that's probably not going to happen, because
how about just then a heck of a lot
more black people and other people don't like the cold enough to go to Wyoming and live, right? They don't like the cold enough to go to North Dakota and live, South Dakota and live. So some places will just be left alone. It just will be. So, I mean, I know some people look at me like, this dude is off the chain. But that's the reality. However, on the other end of that, and that's just a control thing, every time anything has come up to even come close to having some semblance of a little more balance, the power structure to be redistricts.
Yeah.
And that's a different conversation. That's a different question.
I'm still working. I have a lot of anger around that one right now. So let me work on that one. We can have that conversation in a few weeks.
You're in therapy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but again, that's the politics. That's politics. And as I said, without money, you don't have politics. Politics is money.
Yeah. So here's another one from this list. And again, I shared it with everybody. I can be number 24. I can be pretty sure that if I ask to talk to the person in charge, I'll be facing a person of my own race. And I also thought if you get upset at a restaurant or a retail establishment, you probably have to approach it a little bit differently than I do.
I just had that happen this weekend.
Okay, tell me.
Literally, I just had that happen this weekend. I went to the store and I paid. You won't be able to relate to this because y'all have Dungeness crabs in that area. We have blue crabs. So I bought 2 dozen blue crabs. I spent about $220 on 2 dozen blue crabs, and the crabs were something wrong. They cooked the crab. They either cooked dead. It wasn't right. I'd taken the crabs like to my partner's house, which was 40 miles away, but that was $100 worth of crabs. And out of principle, when the crabs weren't right, well, I took 1 bag home, I took 1 bag there. The bag that I took home was just horrible. I took the bag to her house, I opened up 2 crabs, and it was the same thing. They were horrible, they were soft. And it was an issue, so I took them back. And I was talking, and they said, well, why didn't you open up more of the crabs? Hell, if I had 2 dozen, and we opened up 10 of them in a bag, you think I'm gonna press my luck with the rest of them? It's like, it was crazy. And I'm going through this exercise. I said, well, I want to speak to the decision maker.
And I'm gonna assume these were all white people.
No.
Okay.
It was 2 black people at the counter. We're in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. You will find black people that run the store, but they're not the decision maker. It's 2 different conversations. And so she said, well, we are the decision makers. I said, okay, you're the decision maker. I said, so what you're deciding to do is not take these crabs back. I said, because I'm telling you, I drove 40 miles. And from a customer service perspective, I expect you to take these crabs back and not tell me we're going to keep opening up the rest of them to see which ones are good. And I'm going to taste them and eat them to see if they're bad. To see if they're bad or not. And so we went through this about 10 minutes. And then there was a white gentleman that was standing in the background. I knew he was the real decision maker, because something happened with the cash register, and he ran his ass over there to fix the cash register. When it came to the money being handled right there, it showed who the decision maker was. So I looked at him. I said, "Sir, you know, you've been in this conversation, and I know that you're the manager, you're the person." I said, "What would you have done? Would you have eaten these crabs, continue to eat these crabs, or see what you've done?" He said, "Yeah, I would have opened up all the rest of them." I said, "That's because you're in this industry. I'm a consumer, and I'm serving these people this food at my house. And if I've opened up 8 or 9 of them and they were bad, you think I'm going to serve my guests the rest of them?" And I said, and then they proceeded to say, "Well, we'll replace these 4 crabs and you take the other 8 back home." I'm like, see, that's some stuff that had I been somebody different, they would have said, "Okay, sir, here you go. We're going to replace these crabs, and we apologize for the inconvenience." That's what the conversation was. And I could sense that tension there. Yeah. But I was, and then they said, "Well, we'll give you these 4 crabs. We'll give you 4 new crabs, and you take the other 8 crabs." I said, out of principle, that's $100. Out of principle, I don't have to have the $100, but it's principle that you replace this. I said, so you can keep all of the crabs. I don't want your 4 crabs. I said, you can keep all of them. And so as we went through this conversation, I said, you know what? I changed my mind. I said, let me not be this person. I said, give me the 4 crabs. And oh, by the way, they wanted to reheat the other 8. So they wanted to take the food that they'd already given me and I'd already taken home. They wanted to take it back in the back, reheat it, and bring it out to me.
To try to prove what?
I said, that's okay. I said, I want you to reheat them, and I want you to bring me the 4 crabs. Because I was going to make a point if they actually did that. So I'm sitting in my car. I go through this whole 15, 20-minute dissertation. I'm sitting in my car, and then they bring me a whole fresh dozen of crabs. But I had to go through all of that just to get what you probably would have gotten.
Well, and you probably have to be more measured, right? It is.
I couldn't go off. You're right. I knew and understood I could not go off because I would be this 6'2", 300-pound imposing black man on this entire establishment, and everybody was scared of what I might do. I knew I could not. I knew I was. And see, that's the thing. I knew that I was representing all disgruntled black people at that moment, and I couldn't let these people down because the next person to come in there would be assumed to be the same way.
Yeah. And I think that is a phenomenal demonstration of what we don't even have to think about.
Oh, no. If you get pulled over by the police, you can cuss the police out and everything will be okay. I dare not curse the police out. I dare not call them a SOB, MF, nothing else. Dare not. Yeah. Yes, sir. No, sir. Even though you're being an ass, I'm going to be at 10 and 2 the whole time. This is 10 and 2, by the way. So if you ever hear the word 10 and 2, 10 and 2 on the steering wheel the whole time.
So I'm going to read the next 2 on this list because we've talked about the police issue. I hadn't thought about this one. So if a traffic cop pulls me over or the IRS audits my tax return, I can be sure I haven't been singled out because I'm white.
Okay.
Well, you do well financially. Mm-hmm. Has that ever been a concern? Because you do, I'm sure, better than you should.
Yeah. Yes, I have. I'm going through that right now with the SBA loan. I'm going through that right now with the SBA. Let me give you the screw. Now, this is going to blow your mind, right? And I hope the
this
SBA
is the therapy section for you.
I hope the SBA is not listening to this because my loan is in underwriting right now. I'm getting the SBA loan. They ask me a question. These are the questions that I'm being asked. How do you know your business is going to be doing well in the future? What measures do you have in place? Why is your business more profitable this year over the last 3 years? What the hell kind of question is that? So I got to answer this question, right? That wasn't the one. And so, I'm clear. You're going through this process. and you some things you can say that's just the way it is.
Right.
Where I lost it was that I had to get a letter from a local municipality court for a speeding ticket that they classified as reckless driving because I was going 20 miles over the speed limit, and it's considered a misdemeanor. Okay, it was a misdemeanor, so I have to get some documentation on it. I got it. Ashley, I got the ticket in 1994.
Oh my God.
So I had to go to the courthouse and get an explanation for a 26-year-old ticket. What's the statute of limitations in America?
It depends on the crime, but 26 years, I don't think any crime lasts that long.
Murder is the only crime that statute of limitations does not apply to.
In a speeding ticket.
26 years.
Uh,
Now you give me the logic behind that.
Can't.
So how do you deal with that emotion? Yeah, some things you can say, is that just the way it is, or is it because I'm Black?
Well, I'm gonna guess it almost always comes into your thought process.
Oh,
it might be that might be the way it is. I mean, some of those questions you do, regardless of race, look at them and go, "This is stupid." But
when that wasn't all of the questions. Let me make that clear.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about a business, right? Now wrap your brain around this, with profits over $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Annually, not collectively, annually.
Right.
So how do you wrap your brain around justifying it?
That much scrutiny.
How do you? So now the question becomes: is that just the way it is, or is that because I'm Black?
Right.
And then some people say, well, how do you know how do they know that you're Black? Because it's a federal loan and you have to fill out, and they ask you those questions. And did you know, and I'm going to verify this one, right? If you were born in America before a certain day, your social security number indicates whether you're white or non-white.
I had not heard that.
I'm gonna verify it. I'm not speaking as it's true.
I know the first 3 numbers indicates what city you're from.
Right, the location. The middle 2 numbers. I'm being told that the middle 2 numbers.
Interesting.
That's what I'm being told. The middle 2 numbers indicates. And so if that is the case, then all kinds of things could happen to you just because.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Anyway.
All right. So
let's
shift the gear.
Okay, let's
number 26 on here.
Yep.
I can easily buy posters, postcards, picture books, greeting cards, dolls, toys, and children's magazines featuring white people.
Oh, no question. I had that conversation with Mark Willis when I first came to the company. I gave him a piece of literature and I handed it to him. I said, Mark, how can I take this piece of literature to my community? This piece of literature
KW.
KW, yes. This piece of literature is not reflective of my community at all. Not even a representative. And these are all of the pieces of literatures that KW expect me to take to my community. Let's just take my community out of it. Let's go to the Asian community. And at that point, I could say, let's go to the Hispanic community, because there was like no diversity at all in the literature.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that this was kind of a tee up. We talked, I think it was last week, might have been the week before, about the homogeny that we see in a lot of market centers and how our market centers are, you called them not real. I'm just going to say big unicorns, right?
I called them fake. That's fake. What I said.
And so Gary, put a call out to put this diversity task force together, and I'm so grateful he has. And I've become aware this last week that we have lots of market centers that didn't submit one person to be on the task force countrywide.
Right.
And I just went, wow, if that doesn't tell you something, either the leadership of the office is too afraid to have the conversation, which I've also.
In the absence of conversation, ignorance prevails.
Right. So fear may be keeping some leadership teams from even saying anything about it. I know there are some market centers that don't believe this is an issue. What I would love to know your thoughts. Number one, are you participating at that level? And what are your thoughts on how that task force needs to go about operating in this environment where we have, people who don't think this is an issue and we don't really need this?
You have people on your team and you have people who aren't on your team. You can't worry about the people that aren't on your team. You can only worry about the people that are on your team. So you just put the best team together and you take the field and you have the greatest amount of impact that you can have. What's critical and what's most important with this is the loudest voice in Keller Williams is supporting this cause. That's what really matters, right?
Yep.
That's what really matters. And so if you're at that place where you don't feel comfortable with this conversation or you having challenges with this conversation, I actually respect your position. I do, because this is without judgment. However, your perspective does not change whether the mission is going to move forward or not.
Right.
And you have your own demons and issues to deal with that we can't judge. You just have to answer to your maker for your stance and your position.
Yeah. Didn't know that would be your answer, but it would be mine too. And that's.
Well, I mean, and that's the diplomatic answer. You want the real answer? You really want the real answer? Excuse me, audience. These are solely the opinion of Emerick Peace and not Ashley and not KW.
I'm going to grab something. You keep going.
And nobody else. If that's your opinion, look, if that's your opinion, fuck you. And that's it. And that's it. That's all I can say, because at that point, Ashley, I can't.
I knew it was coming, Emerick.
I'm not gonna expend my energy in dealing with that. Let's deal with the people who want to move the needle, right? You stay over in your corner. At some point in time, you are going to have to reckon. You're gonna have to face your issues, but the agenda has to move forward.
And I believe it will. I believe we have.
And the point is, I can't make you change. You get that? I can't make you change. So I'm not even going to expend my energy on making you change. I'm going to expend my energy on the people who want to make a change. And hopefully one of these people are friends or close enough to you and you'll understand and you'll get the message at some point.
Yeah. So our friend, Mr. Willis, gave me this years ago.
An F-bomb.
An F-bomb. All right. So getting back to, did you throw your hat in the ring for the diversity task force?
No. Because
you've got, again, 97% African-American Black office.
Yeah, I let one of my agents take that opportunity to take a leadership. You gave it to him? I let one of my agents take that leadership role, right? Yeah. Because that's an opportunity for them to step forward and get their shine and be able to grow and do something different. That's not my platform, because I get it. I have a platform. Let somebody else put their platform out there. Now, what I did say, I want to have an integral role in the task force. I just don't want to be the representative. Since there's only one or two from the entire region, then why would I take that position as the leader?
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me. As a major leader, that's not my place. Now, you can find another role for me because you know how vocal and you know what I bring to the table. I just don't want that role because I'm taking an opportunity from somebody else.
Yeah. I will say I'm so proud. We had 4 applications go in, and we had a very short time frame when the region told us, but we had another.
That's a problem.
We had another 4 people who really wanted to get their applications in.
Did you hear what I said? That's a problem, because the word came out over a week before the applications were due.
And I'm gonna give my region a thumbs up. We also just had everybody at our regional leadership level change at the same time. New owner, new ROM, new RD, everything was at the exact same time.
Okay. So you giving them a pass?
I
don't, because they were in the meeting, and if it was that important to them, they would have put it on their agenda differently to just deliver a message.
Yeah.
That's just me.
I'm also going to just say I'm thrilled with our regional leadership. So
okay, all right. Well,
we'll adjust as we go forward. And I know we've got an agent on here in our office. We're going to start some stuff locally anyway. I think, like you have said, we need to have a bigger impact in our home, in our home area, and then have the work done at the national level too.
And that's the real thing. We really have to talk about solutions. We can have a bitch session forever, right?
Yep.
The real question is, what actions are we going to take? Are we really going to put people in place to do things, and are we going to follow the guidance and direction and have a lasting impact on people?
Yeah. All right, so we got 15 minutes. We may not be able to go deep on this, but I woke up last Wednesday morning, the first time in a long time, with some significant fear. Okay. And my fear, I felt like, okay, we've had some curveballs thrown at us this year with Corona, right?
Right.
And we kind of got through, hopefully, what was the worst part of that.
Okay.
And then we were getting through the extreme levels of anger and rioting that happened immediately after Mr. Floyd.
Right.
So I felt like, okay, we can all just breathe for a minute before the next crazy thing happens. And I woke up going, well, the next crazy thing is the only thing I was scared about this year, which is the election, right? It'll be November.
Right.
And we're going to talk about this at our office meeting today and how it just relates to the overall real estate market. But we know presidential cycles and elections have a business impact. And this one, I believe, between now and November 2nd, is going to get a hell of a lot more volatile. And so that's the fear I woke up with. And then I got to, well, that's fine. What am I going to do? So I got past it, but it was paralyzing for a moment. And I remember November 3rd, 2016, we had our office meeting the day after the election. And again, we're a very diverse market center. And for those of you who are on this call who were there, that day and probably 2 months after were very emotionally tough for our people. And at least this time, I mean, we were all blindsided. I don't think anybody, including Trump, thought he was going to win at that juncture.
Right.
So it's different circumstances this year. But as I say that and bring that up, regardless of political affiliation, we're all going to feel that. So how do you talk about that within your market center, and how, if you do?
We don't, and I'm not I've been apolitical for a long time. I've become more political over the past 4 or 5 years than ever. And we really don't have that conversation. We have more of when we talk politics here, we talk a lot of local politics. Because that's the real difference maker in most cases, where people can really grab a hold to and really, really have a real impact locally. And so we have a lot of local conversations about politics and how we can navigate that landscape, because it, particularly in our space, I'm only talking about my market center.
Right.
It was really a foregone conclusion who people weren't going to vote for. So you can't really have a dialogue about something that doesn't exist for you.
Probably 97% of the 97%, right?
Right. Okay, 96.5%. There's always a 0.5% somewhere. But at the end of the day, that wasn't going to be our conversation. So all that really turned out to be was a complaint session. And rather than have a complaint session, I would rather have a high-minded intellectual conversation about what can we really do and how can we really take action and have a significant change or make a difference in what's really going to happen. So the presidential election just doesn't. It just doesn't. But we all know that foregone conclusion pretty much. So we don't even need to talk about that. We got to talk about these other two local idiots that we have to make sure don't get in office, to make sure that in our local politics, the well-being of your agenda is being best represented.
That is brilliant, and I think it's something we don't pay attention to a lot for some reason in San Diego. Right. That's where everything starts. Yeah.
Because so many times we get caught up in the national, and really that's our real conversation is local.
Yep.
Because national does not determine whether building permits get pulled. National doesn't figure out whether the new office building, the new shopping center, the road infrastructure, that's not their conversation. That's your local conversation.
Well, and I mean, Mo would tell us this, right? You got to concentrate on your small group first. If your local government isn't in a good space, how in the world is the state or national going to be? You got to have a strong community first.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's our conversation. Our conversation is local and hyper local most of the time to figure out how we can have the most dramatic impact there.
So now I'm comfortable because I don't know how close you are. We got 8 minutes. I saw some news about Ocean City, Maryland. How close are you to that?
Not far. It's 3 hours.
Okay, so it's not down the street. But what is going on there? Because there's not a whole lot of national news going on.
Right.
But I've seen some people post on Facebook about it. And do you have any insight?
What about it?
I guess there's been some pretty aggressive violence and rioting this week.
I'm not sure, but that community is like, it's a horribly racist community. Let me just put it that way. It just is. It's no big secret to they don't want us down there at all.
Okay.
So, and probably what happened is you probably had a group of people, and the people that go there know it, and and very well, based on the climate of where we have now, you probably had a large amount of white people that tore some stuff up down there.
Okay.
Because that's just not a neighborhood that black folks would typically.
So what I'm hearing you say is to stay away from there.
We go there. No, you go there because it's like the major beach in Maryland.
Okay.
But by the same token, you're not that welcome there either.
How do you know that, Emerick? And it's a silly question, but
because when you seek service there, you can feel the tension in the service. You can feel the tension, like you know when somebody's on your team and not on your team a lot of time, because they don't say it. However, the tonality and the level of service changes. A smile begets a smile.
Yep.
It ain't no smile to beget in that neighborhood a lot of time. And it's strictly an economic exchange. You want my food, you pay me money. And whether you come back or not, I really don't give a damn. But as long as I get your money right now.
So no niceties.
No, not many.
Yeah.
I don't even like the town. I only go there if there's a convention there that I have to attend. Other than that, I don't even like the town.
No.
I go places where I feel appreciated, welcome, and I don't mind spending my money.
And safe, I would assume.
I think the safe part, that's not the biggest issue.
Okay.
It's the disrespect that's the biggest issue. Now, it used to not be safe. Let me make that clear. It used to not be very safe, but however, it's the disrespect more than anything else.
Yeah. And again, white privilege, I don't have to worry about that very often, especially if I keep my sexual orientation to myself, right?
Right.
And that yet you probably face that every single day if you go outside of your community.
I don't know sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it's typically a monetary exchange. And as long as I don't do anything that trigger their subconscious behavior, I'm good.
Oh, wait a minute. What do you mean? As long as you don't do something to trigger their subconscious behavior?
Everybody has a trigger, right? And people can be nice to you. Racist people can be cordial to you, not how you doing. They can be cordial to you, as long as you don't strike that deep-seated subconscious racial nerve where that elicits an unpleasant response for you. Yeah.
And how early do you think you started to learn that? And by the way, that's not my responsibility.
Right.
But
it wasn't until I got into the military. I was an adult because growing up, I had like minimal interaction with white people because I'm from the inner city.
Yeah.
And so I didn't, except like when we would go like to another part of town and go to a store and you would see it. You could tell. You just knew it. So you did what you had to do in that place and you just left.
Well, so when I said it's not it's not my responsibility to always adjust how I am so I don't trigger your internal dysfunction. That's what I meant by it's not my responsibility.
Right. Yeah. But however, that's the way that you walk. That's the way that I walk, because I'm my main responsibility is to get back home alive sometimes. And that's just, or get out of that environment, that area unscathed. Because I know that if there is a blue suit involved, I'm probably not going to get the benefit of the doubt. So why even put myself in that situation?
No. All right. Final words of wisdom from you, sir, for this week. And by the way, thank you so much for saying yes. This is a phenomenal way to start my Wednesdays.
Well, I mean, it's a yes because, number one, it's a great conversation and you're a great person. The other part is that we get to share. In the absence of conversation, ignorance prevails. And
we need to get T-shirts with that.
You know what? I'm going to get my guy to do that. I'm going to get my guy to make some. He's right next door. My printer is right next door. And so the part, just don't confuse equality with equity.
Yeah. I'm going to, I took a screenshot of that meme and I'm going to go back to your wall and get it.
Right. You can, you can download the picture. Don't confuse equality with equity.
I found this picture of you online this week.
Uh-oh. You're not right. You are so not right.
Love you, man.
Love you too, dear. It's always great, the conversation. I love the conversation. And for me, I love to share and just be transparent. I do have to pump my brakes. I'm telling you, I do have to pump my brakes sometime. Because if you pick up in the middle of a dialogue with me, sometimes I may appear to be angry because I'm passionate. And sometimes I just have to temper my tongue because I can say some things that could be abrasive to some people.
We have that in common. I think it's one of the reasons we like each other.
Yeah. And however, when you know the heart, you know the heart.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing. When you know the heart, you know the heart.
Absolutely. All right. Have a great week.
Yes,
hopefully you can find some good crab.
You know what? I had literally had my post. I had the post already written, the comment for their restaurant. If they did not bring me a fresh dozen of crab, I was hitting the button. I was going to hit the button. And I just sit there and I was waiting for this. And I said, I was going to send it when I got back in the car. I said, no, let me give him the benefit of the doubt. They may bring me a fresh dozen. And then I don't have to send this.
I will say I've read some articles, and this for everybody. Be careful because the seafood industry has really taken a hit with coronavirus.
Yeah.
so much of our shellfish, whether it's lobster or crab, has been shipped to China, and they are not, I mean, it was like 70% of the industry. They're not taking any seafood from the US to China anymore. So there's a lot that has been caught that's just been sitting. And that might be part of your issue.
Well, and no, what I can tell you, these crab, they were they were Maryland crab. That's the beautiful part. Crab, most of the time they either come from either in the Maryland, the Bay area region, the Chesapeake Bay region, or Louisiana. This was a Maryland crab house. They will only sell Maryland crabs because they're loyal to the water. They're loyal to the Maryland watermen.
Okay.
And no, we're not producing enough crab to send anything out right now. Louisiana, they can send crab out because they got the whole damn Gulf, and it's warm all year round. So we only get crab, really good crab, from like the end of April until September. So in Louisiana,
that's when I'll come visit next year.
Okay. Well, but the thing about it is that we get a lot of Louisiana crab now because the bay can't really is not producing enough crab for the demand now. So we get a lot of Louisiana crab. That's just a seafood. Oh, and by the way, I thank you for making me a little more mindful, because I have been reading my seafood labels to make sure it's not coming from China. And you got to read the fine print, because there's a difference in where it's processed and where it's from.
Yep.
And so, and in my case, you're going to start seeing less of me, I hope, because I'm in a new diet phase. Let me let you go. I'm in a new diet phase. No chicken, no pork, no beef, no turkey. I'm only eating seafood and vegetables, minimum sweets. I got to get this other 25 pounds off me. I'm working all kinds of ways.
All right.
Thank you, dear.
Have a great week, man.
All right.
Big hugs.
Yes. Thank you, guys.